The High Court in Johannesburg is expected to hand down judgment tomorrow in the application for certification of a class action in the historic Silicosis case. 56 former miners want the court to allow them to institute a class action to claim damages against mining companies for occupational diseases.
The judgment in the case will be handed down by 3 bench judges in the South Gauteng High Court. The judgment will be in relation to the application for certification of a class action. Up to 200,000 current and former gold miners may join the class action should the court find in favor of the applicant. NGO Section 27 helped bring the court application.
For more on the story, we are now joined by Marcus Lowe, Head of Policy Department from the Treatment Action Campaign via Skype. Good evening, Marcus, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, briefly take us through the history of this court case.
So, yeah, I mean, the history, I want to take it back quite far. For decades, gold mining companies knowingly expose their workers to dangerous levels of dust, of silica dust. And because of that exposure, at least 200,000 former mine workers developed silicosis, which is a very serious lung disease. It's completely disabling. So the question is, with these 200,000+ mine workers, how do we provide justice for these mine workers? How do we make sure they get compensated? And what we argued in court, and what we're hoping the court agrees with tomorrow, is that the best way to ensure that these mine workers get justice for what's been done to them is to have them certified as a class, which means they don't each have to bring their own case. You don't need to have 200,000 different cases. You can have one big court case. And, that's what we're hoping the court will rule tomorrow.
Now, Marcus, if you win the case, what will it mean for the miners? Well,
tomorrow isn't the end of the case. If the class is certified tomorrow, then it means the case can proceed to trial, or alternatively, the mining companies might settle. But ultimately, what that means for the former mine workers is compensation. So they'll be paid out financially for the suffering that they've had, for the loss of income, etc. And that's quite important. I think one of the things people forget about this is it's not just the mine workers. Typically, the mine workers in this case are breadwinners, so they have full families dependent on them. If the breadwinner can't work anymore, that affects the whole family. The family has to care for that person, etc. So
now,
we're hoping that
go ahead.
The surviving mine workers and their families will get compensation. So that's the second thing the court will hopefully give an indication on tomorrow as to whether surviving relatives will have a right to compensation.
Now, going forward, what happens if you lose the class action?
Well, I mean, it's a serious setback if the class is not certified tomorrow. Our legal team will have to reassess. Something I should make clear is that as Treatment Action Campaign on Section 27, we are not the main applicants. We're a friend of the court in this case. So ultimately, the decision will have to be taken by the lawyers representing the 56 mine workers. It will be up to them to decide.
Marcus, what support system is the TAC providing to mine workers apart from the legal action that you're taking forward on their behalf?
So, again, we're a friend of the court in this case. We introduced additional evidence. The mine workers have separate legal representation. What we're hoping, what we'll try to do as far as we can is to ensure that if there's a settlement, that settlement is as fair as possible and that it's done in a way that ensures that mine workers can actually access the compensation. We don't want a system where there is compensation, but there's a lot of red tape and most mine workers can't get it. It's really important that compensation reaches the mine workers as soon as possible, because most of these are, it's by definition people who are sick with silicosis. So it's people who struggle to earn an income, etc.
Now, Marcus, with regards to the mining companies, before this action, the class action that you've put through to the court and waiting on a decision on for tomorrow, what has been their reaction as mining houses?
Well, I mean, the court case was really depressing. The mining companies appear to be doing everything they can to avoid accountability for what's happened. And to some extent, one can understand that many of the people working at the mining companies now are not historically responsible. But as companies, they have a historic obligation. And the history of this is really important. One shouldn't see the gold mining industry in isolation. It worked hand in hand with the apartheid government. And part of the reason why these mining companies felt they didn't have to ensure the safety of their workers is because the workers were mainly black, and they felt they could get away with treating black people as differently from how they would treat white people. So that whole historical legacy hasn't really been dealt with in South Africa. It's the kind of thing that ideally we would have discussed in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission or that kind of thing, but it hasn't really been discussed. So, what we'd like to see is the mining companies taking more responsibility and saying, this is a horrible thing that's happened in our past, and we're willing to pay compensation and to do it right from now on.
Marcus, thank you so much for joining us. We have to leave it there for now.
Thank you.
That was Marcus Lowe, the head of policy department from Treatment Action Campaign, joining us via Skype.